Hey, this is Eric McNair with Add Some Tech, a digital marketing and technology podcast. We discuss the relationship of how both digital marketing and technology affect each other. This week we're going to talk about something that I call flavor of the week advertising. This is a problem that many businesses, especially small businesses, suffer from, and this really needs to be discussed. Now you may be asking, what is flavor of the week advertising? Flavor of the week advertising are advertising methods that usually have some marketing guru or some analyst behind it that's been ranting and raving about it. They tend to be gimmicks and complete derailment of the original intent of the platform you're trying to advertise on. So what I have done is, for this podcast, I've actually gone through and made a quick list of what I consider to be the biggest offenders of advertising. These are the flavor of the week advertising methods that you should avoid. So the first one I'm going to hit on is Snapchat. Now, Snapchat is a very, very successful social media platform. It's really taken off in the last couple of years. It is a destructive image app. So essentially you take a picture, and after you've sent it to somebody, there's almost like a timer that the image will eventually disappear. That was the initial concept. It has branched out to where there's now Snapchat stories, and they've actually got content being curated, and they're trying to make it into more than just a picture sharing platform. So as soon as Snapchat started getting to that point where they were starting to create content, the question of Snapchat advertising comes up. So Snapchat has kind of moved into the advertising world, and a lot of the marketing gurus are talking about Snapchat and the importance of Snapchat. What's really interesting is there's an article that was released from Adweek earlier on in 2015 that talks about the pitch for Snapchat advertising. So this was the sales pitch that Snapchat gave to brands, and the pitch was $750,000 a day to run a single ad that would show up and then would disappear at the end of the day. So for a single run ad, $750,000 be in front of this audience. This ad, the only metrics you would get would be how many people actually saw it. You're not going to get any information on who they are. You're not going to get any information on age range, demographics, anything like that. All you're going to get is $750,000 taken from you and the assurance that this many people saw it. So that's pretty much it. And we're still talking about Snapchat as it relates to advertising. I find it to be very pointless in the sense that there are so many other things that you can be doing with your ad dollars, but there's just this focus, this fear around Snapchat. I had a doctor come up to me and ask me about Snapchat. He came up to me and said, Eric, I've been reading a lot about Snapchat and kind of the advertising benefits, and kind of this is where a lot of the young people are. Should I be on Snapchat? And I looked at this person and said, no, you shouldn't. The first thing you should worry about is your website, maybe getting on Facebook, things like this. The main avenues that people are going to get to your business. And this is really the problem that is flavor of the week advertising. It's a shift in focus on where you really should be putting your ad dollars. Flavor of the week advertising is really this concept of here's a get-rich-quick scheme for marketing and advertising. So, if you get on Snapchat before everybody else does, you're going to have huge, huge success. And so we're looking for the next thing, the next big hit platform to get on. And the problem that's happening is that you're throwing so many ad dollars at things that are kind of fads in a way. I would say that Snapchat doesn't really fall into that category of being a fad, but the concept of advertising on it is, in my opinion, a fad. Now, the next one that is on my list here is a fad, 100%, and that is Twitter's Periscope. The reason why I put this on the list is that this hit kind of a fever pitch in about September or so. and it really has just fallen off the radar. I don't see very many people talking about Periscope, especially in kind of the SEO and digital marketing world. But around August, September, that was the only thing they were talking about, and they all were doing Periscope. And I even saw somebody that was insinuating some concept that your rankings would be positively affected, your website rankings would be positively affected if you were broadcasting on Periscope. It's so outlandish that people got to this point. But what's interesting about Periscope is that this is one of those things that people got really excited about. They thought, okay, this is going to be a big app that's going to offer live broadcasting in Twitter. So it's kind of a novel idea, but it's one of those things that everyone starts doing it. They try it out. There's kind of this excitement factor, and then people just kind of drop off. They go back to what they were doing. They do YouTube videos and other platforms that are really geared and made to be more effective for video broadcasting online. And so Periscope was kind of a cool concept. I can record a video real quick from my phone, and my argument is, well, yeah, that's great, but you can still do that with your phone and going to YouTube, and with other platforms like that, you can do Hangouts on air and stuff like that. There's so many other opportunities, but this was just a concept. This was a kind of marketing guru's kind of dream of, I think I've figured out how to rig the system and make it beneficial to myself, and I'm going to gloat about the fact that I have this huge hit on Periscope. So again, it's that concept of flavor of the week. It's something that people got really excited about, and they thought this is going to really move the needle for my marketing efforts, and it really didn't. A third one I've got on this list is one that I hear a lot, and it's something to really think about. And this kind of leads more into another conversation I'll get to near the end of the podcast. But building apps for small businesses. This is something that has really, I would say, has slowly risen as the success of apps on the iPhone and on Android phones has really continued to rise. And as apps have gotten more sophisticated and as the app development community has matured. So now that there is a substantial number of app developers looking for work, they're looking for another avenue. And so building apps for a local doctor's office, a local ice cream shop, things like that. This is a conversation that comes up of, well, do I really need a website? Can I just build an app? Everyone's using apps. I want to build an app. So that's this concept that's kind of floating around. And this is kind of what I would say is a flavor of the week advertising pitch, is that it's this concept of stickiness that is very, makes a lot of sense in advertising. If you can install something on somebody's phone, I can send you push notifications, I can be out in front of you all the time. But the problem with apps is that there's plenty of data to show that other than like the top 10 apps in the app stores that are out there, I'm talking about apps like Facebook, Instagram, Google Maps, big, huge applications that a lot of people would argue you don't have a smartphone if you don't have this particular app. So, Facebook and Twitter and things like that, these big apps. Other than those, very few people actually go to the App Store, search around, and download apps. App discovery is not a thing. It is something that usually a friend of yours has to tell you about. It's more of a referral-based thing. It's not something that you're going to find a lot of people just going, I need a chiropractor app. I need to download the app of my chiropractor. Now, if you can give them some benefits and things like that, that's one thing. But just the concept of I have an app and it has my phone number and they can message me and things like that. There's other methods that work better. And ultimately it comes down to the cost. These are very expensive avenues to go down. Building a top-of-the-line website can be expensive, But building the cheapest bottom of the barrel app can be more expensive than that top of the line website. To build a decent app, you've actually got to have an in-house developer working with you. If you look at the top 100 apps in the App Store, they're either run by people that are actually the developers themselves, or it's by some venture capital firm or some big business. And they have dedicated developers in-house working on this app and supporting this app. It's not something that you can just build and come back to in a couple of months just to make a tweak or things like that. If you look at how many updates come through on your phone with bug fixes and stuff like that, it just shows you the level of support that you're going to need for this. Just to have it. I haven't even talked about the concept of people finding your app. How are people going to find it? The app search engine mess of being able to go and find, I'm looking for a particular app, it is so hard to find. You can do it, but it is one of those things that people will bounce around and really have to, honestly, they have to know the name, and they've really got to be sitting there next to somebody that already has it, or can send them a direct link to. So it's very difficult to really push the marketing of an app. And if you think about it, you're marketing something that you hope is going to market yourself. Just think about the logic there, that there's so much time, money, and effort that goes into having this, and how is this benefiting your advertising? So that's why I kind of feel like it fits in that flavor of the week concept of, it's a good idea, but it may work for a small group of people, but for the large masses, it's not something that's going to be beneficial. Next thing is viral marketing. Viral marketing, this is something that it's almost up there in terms of Periscope. In that September and October period, it was like viral marketing, Periscope, viral marketing, Periscope, viral marketing, Periscope, Snapchat. Like, it was just kind of, they were all kind of in that mix there of people talking about, and people still talking about viral marketing. It's one of those things that just keeps coming up and down. But viral marketing is something that really has gotten to this fever pitch again, because there's been some good viral marketing examples. There are people that have made really successful videos marketing for small businesses, and it's exciting. And so there's this concept that we've got to do this, that this is the way to get in front of people, is to make a cool, interesting, funny video and put it out there on Facebook and get people talking about it. The problem is that you really need a cool brand to do it. You've got to have the pieces that make that work. My favorite example of a really successful viral marketing campaign was a doctor, and I'll put it in the show notes, but it was a really funny video of a chiropractor out in Los Angeles. He hired some YouTube video creators, and they made a video where he's just this kind of creepy doctor, always looking at the camera, and just, it was quirky and funny, but yet at the same time he was talking about what he was doing. And it was just this perfect blend of, you knew it was an advertisement, but you're sitting there kind of going, is this just a really bad ad, or is this something secretly brilliant? And so it was a big hit. The problem is that to make a good viral video and to have the control over the whole experience, you've got to be really good. You got to be really, really good at being able to produce the video and have good audio quality. There's a lot of pieces that really make that have to be kind of in place to make that work. You've got to have good talent. And honestly, it comes down to, it's really expensive to make a viral marketing post that's gonna be really effective. Is that it's expensive. The bar is really high to make something like that. And again, it comes down to, is it a good use of your ad dollars? The next one I've got on the list is native advertising. This is like the uncool stepbrother of viral marketing. Native advertising kind of accepts the fact that we aren't that cool, that we don't have that cool factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay somebody else to be cool for me. So I'm going to insert an advertisement into some other platform or messaging and get them, this cool person, to push my brand. So it would be like Kim Kardashian, with a new handbag. The handbag is paid for by that company. They want their handbag to be seen with Kim Kardashian. So that's kind of a native advertising concept. It can also be something like listening to a podcast and the podcaster is just talking about something and then just completely derails and kind of inserts this thing of, I could really use a Pepsi right now. I could, Pepsi just quenches my thirst. Let me just drink this Pepsi here real quick. Okay, good. Do you like Pepsi? Yeah, you do? Okay, cool. Yeah. Love Pepsi. These kind of like awkward things where you can really tell that that's not what the person really thinks. They're doing this for the money, essentially. I was listening to a podcast and I ended up stopping the podcast because I was so just disgusted by it. They're talking and this person just goes, I just love Audible. Audible is fantastic. And Audible is doing lots of ads on podcasting, and that's perfectly fine. But this was a native ad. This was 100% a native ad. And, they may deny that was an actual plug, but it just seemed very disingenuous for that particular person to say that. You could tell that everyone got really kind of awkward, like they knew that this was actually a native ad plug. So native advertising is that kind of concept. And the thing is that with native advertising, you're kind of going off to the assumption that people are stupid. That people are not going to be aware of the fact that you're paying off this particular podcaster or, you're paying off this publishing house or whatever to push your brand on their base, their follower group. So that's kind of it's a bad start to an ad, is basically calling everybody stupid. And the concept of kind of you make people feel stupid, this kind of dilutes your brand. It dilutes the legitimacy of your brand. If you just go off and pay off people to say nice things about your product, even if people are indifferent to you, they're going to kind of lean towards the concept that you're not as trustworthy as other companies. So native advertising just has that vibe to it, that it just seems very disingenuous. The last one I have on the list here for the flavor of the week advertising is retargeting or remarketing. I've actually written on this at length, but the concept of remarketing, it's funny that the name retargeting or remarketing, it was retargeting a couple of years ago and now has become remarketing. And this one was kind of a little bit bigger mid-year last year. It kind of came back a little bit at the beginning of the year. It's the concept of having your ad follow around a previous visitor of your website. Or maybe they're on your mailing list and that's how you're remarketing to them. You're pushing marketing material in front of them, usually through display ads that follow you around the web. That's usually how that's delivered. And it's one of those things that it sounds great. I can always stay in front of my customers. This is awesome. The problem, though, is that unless you do it exactly right and you use the information that the customer has given you to make sure that your ad is going to be the most relevant ad possible, it will go wrong. And people will get this really agitated, I can't stand that brand, that's just always annoying me. Because everywhere they go, they see you. So very few people talk about remarketing in a positive manner. It's usually the businesses that love the concept of I'm always in front of my customer. So with all of this on this list of these offenders of advertising, there's a couple things that I kind of wanted to hit on. And the one big one is ad dollar spending. The best spending for your ad dollars. I've kind of mentioned this a little bit through the list, but are these, even if these things are effective, like viral marketing is a good example of this. These things can be effective, but is it a good use of your ad dollars? If you've got $1,000 a month to spend on advertising, you probably shouldn't try to do a viral video. Videos can cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to do correctly and to then market them properly. This is why Hollywood spends millions of dollars on video, on making movies, is that it's expensive. There's just a lot of moving pieces. I don't think people understand how much work goes into video. So, is it a good spending of your ad dollars to be dropping thousands upon thousands of dollars on something that may or may not work? So it's kind of understanding the risks that you're getting into. So same thing with building an app. Is it a really good use of your ad dollars? Could you put that money towards building a more responsive website that's going to work on people's phones instead of focusing on building an app? So things like that. That's the big question you got to ask yourself. Are any of these things a good spending of your ad dollars? If you are a huge brand like Coca-Cola, you can afford to dive in a little bit of your ad dollars into Snapchat advertising. You can try out the flavor of the week advertising techniques because you're spending millions upon millions of dollars a year on advertising. You can do a Periscope, Twitter push. You can build an app. You probably have a brand that's effective enough to do that. Viral marketing, you can do that. A lot of people really like Coke. So, people are going to be more responsive to a viral marketing campaign from Coca-Cola. Native advertising, probably not much. Remarketing, there is some benefits of doing that. But, it's not where even a brand like Coca-Cola spends most of their ad dollars. They're not going to spend it on these things. They may talk about them, and you may see them doing it, but they don't really see them, quote, as effective. They're doing them just to make sure that if it is effective, they are already there. And it's kind of, a lot of it's an experiment. Is that here's a new platform, we're going to look into it. We see the amount of people on this platform, and we want to know, is it beneficial to spend money on these platforms? So if you look at it that way, it's a much wiser way of doing advertising. But if you're sitting here going, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills this month, this is not where you want to spend your ad dollars. I think the other thing that's really important, and this really kind of focuses more in the Snapchat Periscope world, is the concept of target demographics. You really need to understand your target demographic. Going back to the example of the doctor talking about Snapchat, yes, there are 16-year-olds that are going to come to your practice, but the 16-year-olds are not the decision makers on what doctor they go to. And so that's the problem with focusing on platforms like Snapchat. If you are a doctor, or doing Periscope, if you are a retirement home and you're trying to get some more information, kind of trying to get the word out about you, doing a Periscope session, about your retirement home isn't going to be the best use of your ad dollars. It's not going to be a good use of your ad dollars. It's not going after your target demographic. The people that are in your target demographic of people that are either looking for retirement homes for their parents or for themselves aren't on Twitter. We just know that. Just looking at the demographic data on Twitter users, it's not a reality. And so knowing where your core customer is spending their time really helps you weed through flavor of the week advertising and kind of wasteful ad spending. So, and the last thing I want to leave you with is the concept that a lot of marketing is not what you're doing that is wrong, it's how you're doing it. I think this really focuses a lot around the viral marketing. Spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on a viral marketing campaign, it can bring in a lot of clicks, it can bring in a lot of likes, but is it going to translate into customers? And so it really has that kind of linchpin of it's how you're doing it. Like I said, I've seen viral marketing campaigns that are done that really do get people in the door. That example of the chiropractor out in LA, it was a tried and true ad. It went viral, but it was a TV ad made to be put and broadcast around the local community, and it just was something that took off really, really well on YouTube. So they understood what they were doing and how to do it correctly, and so these kinds of things, they're kind of flavor of the week in the sense that maybe the one time it was done right, and maybe this is the only kind of way it's done right, and because it's done so many times, it's become trite and it's become boring to the point where it doesn't work anymore. So that's the thing I'd like to leave you with is really be kind of looking at what is the best way to spend your ad dollars, what's your target demographic, and what is your approach in doing your ad initiatives. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you just trying to get likes, or are you trying to get customers? So think about that and talk to the consultants that you're working with, and talk to the agencies you're working with. If they don't have a good concept of what they're doing, you really should look elsewhere. You want to make sure that you're spending your ad dollars as effectively as possible. So anyway, that is our episode of Add Some Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.